Welcome back to Senior Health After 50. Let me hit you with a question right out of the gate. Have you ever felt that nagging neck pain that just won't quit? Or that tightness in your shoulder, the kind that makes you roll it over and over, hoping it will finally ease up? Maybe even that dull, stubborn ache hiding right beneath your shoulder blade, the one no massage therapist, no chiropractor, and not even pain meds can seem to touch? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Every single year, millions of Americans pour billions of dollars into treatments, yet they walk away shaking their heads, wondering, why doesn't anything work? It is a letter thing. I've seen those faces in my own clinic for decades, patients with tired eyes telling me, "Doc, I've tried everything. Physical therapy, adjustments, muscle relaxers, even surgery consults, and still the pain comes back." Here's where I need you to lean in, because what I'm about to tell you flips the script completely. That pain in your neck or shoulder, in many cases, it has absolutely nothing to do with your muscles or your spine. The true culprit is often hiding much deeper, in a place most people never think to look. It's an organ you probably only hear about when someone mentions gallstones. I'm talking about your gallbladder. And by the time we're done here, you'll understand how this tiny organ can trigger pain all the way up into your neck and shoulders, and I'll even show you a simple 30-second test you can try at home to see if this is your hidden root cause. Stick with me, because this discovery has changed thousands of lives in my practice, and it could change yours too. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoyed this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Part 1. Why most people treat the wrong problem. Here's something most people don't realize. Modern healthcare often chases the wrong target. You feel pain in your neck? The system says, rub the neck. You feel tension in your shoulder? Inject the shoulder. It's a quick fix mentality. But the human body isn't a set of disconnected parts, it's an orchestra. If one instrument is out of tune, the whole symphony suffers. When I think back to my early days as a medical student, I can almost laugh now. I had this nagging shoulder pain, a dull ache that no massage, no chiropractic adjustment, no fancy posture trick could fix. I was convinced it had to be a muscle imbalance or a spinal misalignment. I was so desperate, I even went through chiropractic training just to figure out my own shoulder problem. Yet, despite every adjustment and every stretch, the pain kept coming back. It wasn't until years later, after seeing tens of thousands of patients with the same stubborn issue, that I discovered what I now call the gallbladder connection. You see, about 80% of the tightness, spasms, and pain in the right side of the neck, the shoulder, or right under the scapula doesn't actually originate in those spots. Instead, it's what we call referred pain signals coming from deeper within, most often from the liver and gallbladder. Let me give you a real-world example. Take President John F. Kennedy. Most people remember him for his charisma and his leadership during the Cold War, but fewer know he battled chronic back and abdominal pain for much of his life. History books talk about the endless treatments he tried, massages, braces, even surgeries, yet the pain rarely left him. Many historians now believe that part of his suffering wasn't purely orthopedic. It was tied to internal organ issues, particularly his digestive and bile function, which doctors at the time didn't fully understand. Or consider Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. She was known for her fierce willpower, but behind the scenes, she too suffered from episodes of abdominal discomfort and shoulder tension. Her doctors treated the surface symptoms, but records suggest she had recurring gallbladder issues that were dismissed until much later. Imagine the leader of a nation enduring boardroom debates while quietly pressing her side to ease the pain. A reminder that even the most powerful aren't immune to the misdiagnosis trap. And then there's a more modern example. A well-known tech leader, let's call him David, modeled after figures like Steve Jobs, once spoke about how stress manifested in his body. He blamed endless hours at the computer for his shoulder stiffness. But when he finally underwent deeper medical evaluation, it wasn't his desk posture at all. It was his liver and gallbladder struggling with years of dietary stress and irregular meals. The muscles weren't the culprit, they were the messenger. These stories highlight a truth I've seen every day in my clinic. If you only look where it hurts, you'll often miss the real cause. Pain is a signal, not a location. And in the case of that stubborn right shoulder or scapular pain, the gallbladder is often the silent player pulling the strings. Part 2. How the gallbladder works. To understand why your shoulder or neck pain might actually be rooted in your abdomen, you need to appreciate the role of one of the most underestimated organs in your body, the gallbladder. The gallbladder is a tiny, pear-shaped sac tucked under your liver, right beneath your rib cage. Most people don't think about it until they hear horror stories of gallstones or someone having surgery to remove it. But in truth, this little organ is a central player in your digestive orchestra. Here's how it works. Your liver is constantly producing a golden green fluid called bile. Think of bile as your body's natural detergent. Just like soap breaks down grease on a dirty pan, bile breaks down the fats you eat into smaller, absorbable parts. But raw bile from the liver is like watered-down dish soap, not strong enough to really cut through the grease. That's where the gallbladder comes in. Its job is to concentrate and store bile, making it several times stronger. Then, whenever you eat a fatty meal, whether it's salmon with olive oil or, let's be honest, a plate of French fries, your gallbladder squeezes, releasing a surge of bile into the small intestine. That surge is what allows you to digest and absorb fat-soluble nutrients like vitamins A, D, E, and K nutrients your bones, eyes, brain, and immune system desperately need. But here's the twist. If the bile mixture is off, say too much cholesterol and too little bile salts, the liquid thickens. It becomes sludge. Imagine pouring honey through a straw instead of water. Everything slows down, pipes clog, and pressure builds. That's the earliest stage of gallbladder dysfunction, and it often comes years before gallstones ever form. And here's the part most doctors don't explain. When this bile sludge builds pressure, it irritates a nerve called the phrenic nerve, which connects the diaphragm to the neck and shoulders. That's why you feel the pain in your upper body, even though the problem started much lower. Even great athletes aren't spared. Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer superstar, once missed training sessions due to abdominal issues tied to his liver and gallbladder. At first, his coaches assumed it was a muscle strain, but deeper evaluation revealed it was digestive in nature, not orthopedic. It's a powerful reminder that the body's internal wiring often fools us. So, when you think about your nagging right shoulder pain, don't just picture knots in your muscles. Picture that small sac under your liver, silently working to manage bile. Because when the gallbladder struggles, the whole system, from digestion to nerve pathways, feels the ripple effect. Part 3. The surprising nerve connection. Now, here's where the story gets really fascinating. How does a problem in your gallbladder, an organ buried deep under your rib cage, end up causing pain in your shoulder or neck? The answer lies in one of the most underappreciated highways of the human body, the phrenic nerve. This nerve runs from your neck, C3 to C5 vertebrae, for the anatomy enthusiasts out there, down through the chest, and it controls the diaphragm, that dome-shaped muscle that makes every breath you take possible. But the phrenic nerve isn't just a one-way street telling the diaphragm when to contract. It's also a sensory nerve. It carries signals back upward toward the neck and shoulders. That's why when the gallbladder gets swollen, irritated, or clogged with bile sludge, it doesn't just cause bloating or indigestion. The irritation transmits through the phrenic nerve, fooling your brain into thinking the pain is coming from your neck, shoulder, or even your right arm. This phenomenon is what doctors call referred pain, the body's confusing way of projecting internal distress onto external body parts. And let me tell you, it has led countless patients and even world leaders down the wrong treatment path. When the phrenic nerve is involved, your body can trick you into chasing the wrong solution. You stretch the shoulder, you press on your neck, you try every foam roller and massage gun you can buy on Amazon. But the real signal is coming from much deeper, your gallbladder trying to say, "Hey, I need attention." This is why I tell my patients, and now you, that health is never about isolating a single body part. It's about listening to the symphony of connections, because the gallbladder, the liver, the phrenic nerve, and even your breathing muscles are all playing in the same orchestra. When one is offbeat, the others start producing noise you feel as pain. Part 4. What causes gallbladder dysfunction? Now that you understand how the gallbladder connects to your shoulder and neck through the phrenic nerve, the next question is simple. What causes the gallbladder to get clogged up in the first place? From decades in medicine, I can tell you it rarely happens overnight. Gallbladder dysfunction usually sneaks up slowly, the way rust creeps onto a car or grease builds in a kitchen sink. By the time pain shows up in your shoulder, the problem has often been simmering for years. Here are the most common culprits I've seen, and they might surprise you. 1. Hormonal imbalances. Women are especially vulnerable because estrogen has a direct effect on bile flow. When estrogen levels are too high, whether from hormone replacement therapy, birth control pills, or simply the natural hormone shifts of aging, bile becomes sluggish. 2. Medications. Modern medicine saves lives, but let's be honest, it often comes with a price. Statins, antibiotics, antidepressants, all of these can stress the liver and alter bile production. 3. Lifestyle choices. Alcohol, junk food, sugar, starches, and refined grains, these are like sludge makers for your gallbladder. They thicken bile, slow its movement, and eventually cause congestion. Look at today's culture of fast food. Former President Bill Clinton once admitted that his decades of burgers and barbecue led to major heart problems. But what most people don't know is that his liver and gallbladder also bore the brunt of that lifestyle, which doctors flagged after his bypass surgery. His dramatic shift to a plant-based diet wasn't just for his heart, it was to protect his entire digestive system from years of abuse. 4. Nutrient deficiencies. Here's one people rarely think about. Bile isn't just fluid, it requires building blocks. Taurine, zinc, and magnesium are all necessary to produce healthy bile salts. Without them, your gallbladder simply doesn't have the raw material to do its job. So, whether it's hormones, medications, diet, or deficiencies, the result is the same. Bile slows down, sludge forms, pressure builds, and the phrenic nerve gets triggered, sending pain signals up into your neck and shoulder. And here's the tragic part. Most people respond by treating the shoulder, not the gallbladder. They spend years on physical therapy, injections, and surgeries when the true fix is often in what they eat, drink, or supplement. Part 5. The 30-second self-test. Here's the part most of my patients lean in for. After years of chasing pain with no answers, they want to know, "Doc, how do I know if my gallbladder is really the culprit?" You don't need an MRI. You don't need to schedule a $2,000 scan. In fact, you can get a powerful clue in less than 30 seconds, with nothing more than your own hands. Here's what you do. 1. Sit comfortably and lean slightly forward. 2. Take your fingers and gently press under your right rib cage, just beneath where your liver sits. 3. Move your fingers back and forth until you find a tender spot or what feels like a knot. 4. Hold gentle, steady pressure there. Now here's the magic. As you press, start paying attention to your right shoulder, your neck, or even the area beneath your shoulder blade. If the gallbladder connection is your issue, you'll often feel an instant sense of relief, tension easing, muscles relaxing, sometimes even a warmth spreading upward. Patients are often stunned, saying, "How on earth did pressing here loosen my shoulder up there?" It's not voodoo, it's anatomy. You're literally interrupting the congestion, irritating the phrenic nerve. I'll never forget a patient I'll call Helen. She was a retired teacher in her late 70s, fiercely independent, but worn down by chronic shoulder spasms. She'd tried cortisone injections, acupuncture, even yoga. Nothing worked. One afternoon, I guided her through this self-test. Within 20 seconds, her eyes widened. "Doc, my shoulder just let go." She wept, not out of pain, but out of the sheer relief of finally understanding her body's signals. Why this test matters. This quick test doesn't replace a doctor's exam, but it's a powerful first clue. For about 80% of the patients I've guided through it, relief was noticeable almost instantly. That tells us the root problem isn't in the neck or shoulder muscles at all. It's in the small sac beneath the liver, struggling to move bile the way nature intended. And here's the best part. Once you discover this, you stop wasting time and money on the wrong treatments. Instead of endless therapy sessions, you can focus on the root cause, restoring bile flow, protecting your liver, and giving your gallbladder the support it needs. When the gallbladder gets overlooked, the pain story never makes sense. People spend years treating the wrong part of the body. But once you uncover the root, sluggish bile, liver strain, phrenic nerve irritation, the puzzle pieces finally fit. And here's the deeper lesson. Pain is not punishment, it's communication. The body isn't betraying us, it's begging us to look deeper. Part 6. Solutions that actually work. Now that we've pulled back the curtain on the hidden gallbladder connection, the question becomes, what can you actually do about it? Here's the good news. Most gallbladder-related pain isn't something you fix with scalpels or injections. It's something you fix with the right dietary and lifestyle changes, choices that reduce bile congestion and restore the body's natural flow. Let's walk through the most effective ones I've seen over my 30 years in practice. 1. Clean up your diet. The simplest, most powerful step. Cut out the foods that thicken bile and clog your system. That means reducing processed sugars, sodas, desserts, pastries, refined starches, white bread, pasta, fried foods, excess alcohol. Instead, emphasize foods that support smooth bile flow. Leafy greens like kale, spinach, and arugula, high in magnesium. Beets support liver detox pathways. Citrus fruits like lemon and grapefruit help thin bile naturally. Think of your bile as water running through pipes. Junk food turns that water into sludge. Greens and whole foods keep it flowing like a clean stream. 2. Support bile production with nutrients. Your body needs certain raw materials to produce healthy bile. Taurine, found in seafood, eggs, and some supplements. Zinc, in shellfish, nuts, seeds. Magnesium, in leafy greens, legumes, whole grains. Without these, bile becomes weak and ineffective. With them, it regains its detergent-like power. 3. Protect the liver. Since the liver produces bile, protecting it is non-negotiable. That means limiting alcohol, being mindful of medications that stress the liver, eating antioxidant-rich foods like berries, cruciferous vegetables, and turmeric. 4. Rebuild daily habits. Finally, don't underestimate small daily choices. Stay hydrated. Dehydration thickens bile. Walk after meals. Gentle movement aids digestion. Manage stress. Cortisol imbalances worsen bile stagnation. These steps may seem simple, but I've watched them transform lives. Patients who once lived on painkillers now garden again. Seniors who feared they'd never play with their grandchildren can suddenly swing their arms freely. Leaders who once powered through meetings with clenched jaws find themselves breathing easier, clearer, and calmer. The gallbladder may be small, but when you take care of it, your entire upper body thanks you. Part 7. Lessons from history. One of the fascinating things about medicine is that the more we learn, the more we realize our ancestors weren't entirely in the dark. They didn't have MRIs or biochemistry labs, but they paid attention to patterns, to symptoms, to the way the body spoke through pain. And when it comes to bile and the gallbladder, history has plenty to teach us. The ancient Greeks and the four humors. Let's start with the Greeks, around 500 BC. Physicians like Hippocrates believed health was governed by four bodily fluids, or humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. While they didn't fully understand digestion, they were onto something. They noticed that when bile was imbalanced, patients often suffered abdominal pain, fevers, and even mood disturbances. The Middle Ages, missteps, and mysticism. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and medicine drifted into superstition. The gallbladder's role was largely misunderstood. Some believed yellow bile was a source of anger, hence the phrase choleric temperament. Leaders who were irritable or quick-tempered were said to have too much bile. In truth, many of them may have been suffering gallbladder inflammation. The 1800s, science catches up. It wasn't until the 19th century that scientists finally began to unravel bile's true purpose. Chemists discovered that bile could dissolve grease like a detergent. Suddenly, it all made sense. Bile wasn't mystical fluid, it was the body's soap for breaking down fats. Around this time, Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, was plagued by chronic digestive issues, shoulder pain, and fatigue. He spent much of his later life nearly incapacitated. Some biographers now believe he suffered from gallbladder dysfunction, worsened by stress and poor diet. The irony is striking. A man who explained the survival of species was himself weakened by a tiny organ his doctors underestimated. The 20th century. Surgery first, questions late. By the 1900s, gallbladder surgery became one of the most common procedures in hospitals. If you had pain, doctors often just removed the gallbladder without much thought to prevention. Millions of patients were left without this critical organ, and while many felt better initially, others developed new digestive struggles. One famous case, Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady of Britain, She had her gallbladder removed in the 80s after bouts of abdominal and shoulder pain. While the surgery relieved her acute symptoms, insiders noted she dealt with lingering digestive sensitivity for years after. Her story reflects a larger truth. Removing the gallbladder doesn't fix the root problem, it just removes the reservoir. The underlying bile imbalance still needs attention. Today, full circle. Here's the irony. After centuries of trial and error, we're returning to what Hippocrates emphasized: prevention, balance, and treating the root cause. Modern science shows us that diet, lifestyle, and nutrients can protect bile, flow, and gallbladder health. Surgery has its place, yes, but it should never be the first option. Even leaders today are waking up to this. Michelle Obama, during her time as First Lady, became an outspoken advocate for healthier diets. While she didn't publicly report gallbladder trouble, her Let's Move campaign wasn't just about preventing obesity in kids. It was about protecting their future livers, gallbladders, and metabolic health from decades of processed food damage. She recognized that what we eat today dictates whether our organs silently thrive or slowly fail. So why spend time on ancient Greeks, kings, and prime ministers? Because history is a mirror. It shows us how often the gallbladder has been ignored, misunderstood, or dismissed, and how that has left even the most powerful people on earth vulnerable to pain and decline. And if leaders who had access to the best care of their era suffered from this overlooked connection, imagine how many ordinary people today are still chasing symptoms while the root cause goes unrecognized. So here's what I want you to take away today. If you've been battling neck or shoulder pain that never seems to leave, it doesn't mean your body is broken. It doesn't mean you're too old to heal. More often than not, it's your body whispering, pointing to a place most people overlook: your gallbladder. When you understand this connection, you stop wasting energy on the wrong fixes. You gain a simple test you can do in 30 seconds. And you unlock the power to heal through smarter food choices, key nutrients, and everyday lifestyle habits, not just pills or endless procedures. I've seen far too many patients lose years of their lives to pain that could have been relieved once the real cause was uncovered. Please, don't let that be your story. Tonight, take a quiet moment. Place your hand under your rib cage. Notice what your body tells you. Because sometimes the key to freedom from pain isn't in your neck or your spine at all, but in the quiet, steady work of your gallbladder. And before you go, if today's insight opened your eyes, please give this video a like, share it with a friend who needs to hear this, and subscribe to Senior Health After 50. We're building a community where knowledge meets hope and where every one of us can live longer, healthier, stronger lives. Remember, your best years aren't behind you. With the right steps, they can still be ahead.